Hey, I'm back for video 15. I think it's 15. I thought today I'd do something a little different. First of all, how are you? Hope you're doing well. Hope you're doing amazing today. I thought I would bring out this book of mine. It's called The Law of Attraction, Success Stories, Neville Goddard, The Law and the Promise. And I thought I would just read one success story, a shorter one, and I'll go into some others from this book that I really enjoy. But I want to read a couple things about imagination and how important it is. So there's something in here that says, you're all imagination. Your imagination creates your reality. Assume and feel you already are what you want to be. Walk in that assumption, even if it makes no rational sense, and it will become actual physical fact. I love that. That is really all you need to know. You don't need to know anything else. You're already assuming things during your day, so why not assume the opposite? If you're a Seinfeld fan, George had, do you call it opposite day or something? It was like, just think the opposite. Just do the opposite. That's actually really good advice. So whatever you're doing that isn't working so well, just try the opposite. You're already assuming things, so you might as well assume the best, right? I mean, that sounds rational to do it that way, but our brain is like, no, that's not the truth. We must think negatively because that's what we identify with the most. So you have to shift your thoughts to identify with another assumption. So remember that you're just all imagination, and you're imagining either something you want or something you don't want throughout your day. And you're imagining by default, which means you're just automatically letting it happen, or you're imagining through intention, where you're actually focusing on one thing deliberately that you want to experience. So a lot of it is living in your head, and I always say that that's sometimes more fun than living in the reality for a little while, especially if your reality doesn't look exactly the way you want it to look. So you just go in your mind and you assume what you want is done. That's it. And you just practice over and over and over and over and over again. And pretty soon you actually feel like that thing happened. And your brain doesn't know the difference. Remember, you're feeding your brain whatever you want to feed it because it does not know the difference, whether it's true or false. That's the coolest thing I ever learned, I think, is that you can just tell it what to think. So objective reality is solely produced through imagination. Objects seem so independent of our perception of them that we incline to forget that they owe their origin to imagination. The world in which we live is a world of imagination, and man, through his imaginal activities, creates the realities and the circumstances of life. This he does either knowingly or unknowingly. So there's that, like you're doing it by default or you're not, and you get to decide what comes into your mind. And you get to decide with, whatever comes into your mind, you get to decide whether you believe it or not, change it or not. And so that's your power that you hold, that you have to practice and know that you have this power and practice it daily. So here's a success story that someone had. This is one of the shorter ones, so I wanted to start with this one in this video. I'm just going to read it word for word because it's pretty cool. Last August, while on a blind date, I met the man I wanted to marry. This happens sometimes, and it happened to me. He was everything I'd ever thought of as desirable in a husband. 2 days after this enchanted evening, it was necessary for me to change my place of residence because of my work, and that same week, the mutual friend who had introduced me to this man moved away from the city. I realized that the man I had met probably did not know of my new address, and frankly, I was not sure he knew my name. After your last lecture, I spoke to you of this situation. Although I had plenty of other dates, I could not forget this one man. Your lecture was based on revising our day, and after speaking to you, I determined to revise my day every day. Before going to sleep that night, I felt I was in a different bed in my own home as a married woman and not as a single working girl sharing an apartment with 3 other girls. I twisted an imaginary wedding band on my imaginary left hand, saying over and over to myself, "This is wonderful. I really am Mrs. J.E." And I fell asleep in what was, a moment before, a waking dream. I repeated this imaginary scene for 1 month, night after night. The first week in October, he found me. On our second date, I knew my dreams were rightly placed. Your teaching tells us to live in the end of our desire until that desire becomes fact. So although I did not know how he felt toward me, I continued night after night, living in the feeling of my dream realized. The results? In November, he proposed. In January, we announced our engagement, and the following May, we were married. The loveliest part of it all, however, is that I am happier than I ever dreamed possible, and I know in my heart he is too. Mrs. J.E. So that was her story. So I thought that one was really cool. This was one of the first stories I learned about probably maybe 10 years ago. Her twisting the imaginary wedding band in her imaginary left hand. So again, your brain and body don't know the difference. So if you're imagining it, it's actually happening right now, technically, in imagination. And the other key thing here is being determined to revise her day every day. So thinking about your day and revising it. So you're thinking about what happened, and if it didn't happen the way you wanted it to happen, you just, in your imagination, create it as though whatever you wanted to happen did happen. So you just go back before you go to sleep, go back through your day and revise it. And then you can create the feeling of going to sleep in the bed that you want to be in, or feel the imaginary ring on your finger, whatever it is that you're wanting. You just imagine it right before you go to sleep. And I just have fun doing this during the day. I think it's really fun to just, tell yourself that you're something else. If you want to be a doctor, pretend like you're a doctor. Just pretend like you've already done all the work that it takes to get there. And to me, it's more fun to do that than be upset about something. I think the whole goal of everything is just to make your number one job that you work on feeling good. That should be your number one job. There's nothing more important than that you feel good during your day, because that's where you're creating from, and that's how you're perceiving your world and your whole life. So I hope this helps you. I'll be reading some more of these stories out of here. I didn't want to read a real long one, but there's some long ones and shorter ones. So I might just do a little series on these success stories. But this is a really cool book. Just got it off Amazon, so I've had it for a few years. But it's pretty cool to read success stories and just kind of listen to what they've done, and then you can kind of apply it in your own life. So before going to bed tonight, if you want to be married, imagine your ring on your finger. If you want to be in a different city, pretend like you're in the bed in your new house in the new city you want to be in. Whatever it is, just imagine it and have fun and play with it and see what happens. See how you feel. The number one thing is, how do you feel? You just want to change your state, which changing your feelings is changing your state. So that's what creates. So yeah, I hope this was a little fun for you today. So I'll be back tomorrow. You guys have a wonderful day, and I'll see you later. Bye.